Hi, YouTube. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Time Magazine article that is entitled "The White Supremacist Origins of Exercise and Other Surprising Facts About the History of U.S. Physical Fitness." So I'm going to go ahead and share a screen. Let me see if I can do this right. Boom. Love it. Okay. So we're going to be reading through this article together and just talking about a few things. You guys, I made a video about, let's see, maybe a month ago, and it was a reaction to the Self fitness magazine, where there was this really large Black woman on there, and they called her the future of fitness. And um, I said, we have to be very careful about the messaging around Black women and what's normal for Black women, because there is a concerted effort. There's a concerted effort for Black women specifically to be praised for being overweight and unhealthy in a very similar fashion to where in music that is promoted to Black people, that it is typically about killing and gangs and drug and violence. There is a concerted effort to present health as something that is not for Black women because, you know, we're big boned or we're whatever the excuse is. And I'm going to get into that whole piece. I'm going to get into the BMI today. I'm going to get into big bone, the actual truth. And I'm going to get into the effort that people are putting in, particularly a larger ilk of people, to demonize health and fitness for Black women. It's actually quite scary. So if you guys have not watched my self-fitness video, I talked about how they put this woman on there. She's not even in a flattering outfit. She's clearly obese. She's clearly not healthy. And they're calling her the future of fitness. And I said, would they ever do this with a white woman? Would they ever call her the future of fitness? Or would they make sure she was wearing something more flattering? And would they make sure that, she looked decent? And I've talked to a lot of my Black clients and a lot of my just clients in general about this idea that Black women are expected to be overweight. And one of the ways that I've started to see this show up is things like this article where they're saying, oh, you care about the white gaze. I'm like, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Y'all are slow. I do not care about the white gaze. What I care about, though, is my cholesterol. I care about my diabetes. I care about my high blood pressure. I care about I don't want to go to a big and tall store, period. Like, it's not even about, it's like, I like feeling a certain way. I want to be able to run around and chase my children. I want to be able to run if I need to. I want to be able to be strong. That has zero to do with whiteness. But even if you guys watch the comments on that video, people are talking about the white gaze. I'm like, but this, you guys, right up in here, this sort of marketing is exactly why we have these opinions. It's white supremacist. What? So the fact that white people are healthy, or we're going to let that stop us from being healthy? Miss me with that. So let's get into this article. I actually haven't read it all the way through. Before I start reading, I'm going to say that I don't doubt that there are white supremacist origins of exercise. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. But the question that I would ask is why does this need to be shared? What is the purpose of this, right? Because people don't just put out information for no reason. They don't just put out information for no reason. They put out information for a message. They put out information because they want you to believe something. This is not by accident. And we have to start to understand that things are not by accident. And so when they're talking about it's white supremacist, if something is white supremacy, the obvious response is, if I'm Black, I want nothing to do with that. Correct? Like, let's get honest. Okay, so the white supremacist origins of exercise and 6 other surprising facts. Okay, let's just scroll down. So I want to get to the part. Let's see. So I guess they're interviewing this woman. Um, your book, Fit Nation, starts out by talking about how fat was something to aspire to, and that was a sign of wealth and healthiness. How did Americans go from mentality of fat is good to skinny is better? One of the things I do to set out, and this is her response, one of the things I set out to do in this book is to look at the change in how we think about our bodies and what's considered attractive. Can I pause you guys and tell you that what's attractive, you can't pretend like something is not attractive. What is attractive is healthy. On a fundamental, biological, uh, anthropological level, health is always going to be attractive. In the animal kingdom, women, not women because they're animals, females and males do not choose the unhealthy animals. They don't. Why are we pretending like that is something that is bad? If your job as a human being, if one, oh, let me hold on, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get slaughtered for this. If you are going to procreate, why would you choose to procreate with someone who is unhealthy? It is in our nature as animals to procreate and to have our species live for as long as possible. And therefore, health is always going to be attractive. And we can get into what healthy is because they're trying to say that healthy is you can be obese and healthy, and that the truth of the matter is you cannot. You cannot. You cannot be healthy and obese. But that is something that has been time and again argued by the health at every size community. And it's like, you actually can't. Let's define health. Let's define someone who doesn't have a lot of risk factors. Obesity is a risk factor. You may not be unhealthy in this moment, but it is a risk factor for other issues. You are not healthy, let alone emotionally healthy. If you are stuffing your face with food instead of dealing with your life circumstances, you are not healthy. You can be technically healthy, but you are not emotionally healthy. So let's always keep our conversations honest and truthful, right? One of the things I do to set out in this book is look at the change in how we think about our bodies and what's considered attractive. Until the 1920s or so, to be what would be considered fat today or bigger was actually desirable and actually signified affluence, which is like the polar opposite of today, when so much of the obesity epidemic discourse is connected to socioeconomic inequality, and to be fat is to be often seen as poor. That is inaccurate. That is an inaccurate statement. Let's talk about what would be considered today fat or bigger was actually desirable and actually signified affluence. You guys, I have said this time and time again. I do not think that skinny is healthy. I actually believe that you can be a heavier weight within a certain body fat percentage and still be healthy. So just because someone is bigger doesn't mean that they're unhealthy. But if their body fat percentage is higher than 25%, they are considered unhealthy by the health community. Obesity is a health issue. So for her to say, oh, it was a sign of affluence to be bigger, let's define bigger. Let's not just go straight from skinny, as in malnourished, to obesity. Like, do you see what I'm saying? And I just did a video on how about 70-80% of Black women are obese. So the messaging here is, if you back in the day, you'd have been considered healthy. I think not, my dear. I think not. And even if that were the case, let's play along. Let's play along and say, even if that were the case, what we know now with medical information now, would we actually be considered healthy? Right? Would it actually be considered healthy? So again, let's keep our conversations honest. So then she goes on to say, so much of the obesity epidemic discourse is connected to socioeconomic inequality, and to be fat is often to be seen as poor. I'm not so sure that's the connection that people make. I don't think that fat people are seen as poor. To me, if you're poor and you don't have food, I would see you as being malnourished. And I understand. If you have enough food to eat yourself into obesity, you may be financially poor, but the fact that you can go out and buy food tells me that you have choices. And I think one thing that really bothers me, you guys, and I've talked about this on my channel. My parents have 8 children. My dad was making less than I made as a teacher at $40,000 a year at one point in his life. When people start talking about poverty and food choices, I get very, very upset because you can buy canned vegetables for 50 cents. 50 cents. You can buy canned vegetables. You can buy canned fruit. And the WIC office gives you money for certain things. Is it called WIC? That's what it was called when I was growing up. I don't even know what it's called anymore. Is it called WIC? SNAP? I think that's the thing. So my thing is we can talk about sodium, but we want to talk about sodium, except not when we're eating pizza, except not when we're eating processed foods. It's like, who cares? Most canned vegetables do not have sodium in them, right? They actually are pretty decent. And I would rather get my sodium from vegetables than from mac and cheese or from, cream of mushroom soup, because that's what we ate, you guys. Like, I'm being honest. We would have cream of mushroom soup and hamburger helper, right? When we were not educated on how to eat. And as soon as my parents were, oh, okay, like let's eat more healthfully, we changed what we ate, even within that paradigm. So let's be honest. And it really bothers me because it's almost like, well, you're poor, so it's okay if you're overweight. It's okay if you're fat because you're poor. But there are options. And I think a larger conversation that we're really not ready to have is a lot of people who are poor spend their money on other things that are not healthy food. But we ain't ready for that conversation. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to be quiet because we're not ready for the conversation about people who are in poverty but are purchasing things that do not contribute to their health, such as expensive clothes and shoes and jewelry, right? So, okay, so now it goes, let's see, let's move on to her next little point. Um, so she goes on to talk about to be fat meant that you could afford these things. I think the point here is, for me, is what does it actually mean to be fat? And did people actually know the health implications of being overweight back then? Because we have so much more research now on what it means to be healthy. And so it's important to delineate between what, just because it was seen as acceptable doesn't mean it was still healthy. I will address your salt comment, because salt is not killing people. It's not. What's killing people is eating themselves into oblivion. It's not killing people. Sodium is this thing that people like to go to. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're worried about sodium, but you had 5,000 calories of pizza and hamburgers and French fries? Like, miss me with that. Miss me with that. Sodium is not killing people. It's what people are eating with sodium on it. If people, I would be curious to see what people, we know that sodium is not bad, So anyway, let's move on to the next part of this article. As that caloric food became more accessible, and as more people were doing sedentary white collar work and had access to cars and leisure, somebody who could resist those caloric foods, exercise, and have a thin body was seen as more desirable. Well, duh. I love a good man with discipline. Don't you? Like, what? I love a man with discipline. Are you kidding me? Somebody who could resist these caloric foods, exercise, and have a thin body was seen as more desirable. Somebody who could resist. God forbid you have some, what's that word? The fruit of the spirit. Forbearance, self-control. God forbid. And it all like it is amazing to me how we will throw up a million excuses for ourselves instead of just living in reality, right? Oh, let me talk about the sodium. Let me talk about the fat. Let me talk about it's like the one thing is not killing you, it's a whole. It's a whole behavior, it's a whole mindset. Somebody who could resist those caloric dense foods, exercise and have a thin body would seem more desirable. Well, duh. Well, duh. That is desirable. Why would you not want a man or a woman who was mentally and emotionally stable in this way? Of course, mentally and emotionally stable comes in different forms, but yes, I want someone who can resist caloric foods. Yes, I want someone who exercises. And yes, not even a thin body. I'm saying have a healthy body. You guys know I am not thin. I am not thin. I am an athlete. I am not thin. I am 16. Wait, what? You guys read my body fat percentage? I think it was like 15%, 16%. But I am not thin. Let's be honest. You can go look on my Instagram. I am not thin, but I do resist caloric foods and I do exercise, and I would want that the same in a partner. And yes, it's more desirable because why would I go procreate with a man who cannot do these things when these are things that I value? And it's not because white people said so. It's because it's good for you. It's because and actually on a biblical level, it's commanded to take care of your body. I know somebody's gonna be like, but that's the white man's, that's the white man's Bible. Tell me to that people in Ethiopia. It always cracks me up because I'm like, people in Ethiopia don't have that. They consider themselves the first Christian. So, okay. What was the most surprising thing you learned in your research? Okay, so she goes on to say, in the earliest 20th century, they said to get rid of corsets and they were an assault on women's form, and women should be lifting weights and gaining strength, and that's actually true. And you feel like this is so progressive. Sure. Then you keep reading, and they're saying that white women should start building up their strength because we need white babies. They're writing during an incredible amount of immigration soon after enslaved people have been anticipated. This is totally part of a white supremacy project. So that was a real holy crap moment as a historian, where deep archival research really reveals the contradictions of this moment. So let me stay here for a moment. I don't doubt that this is true. But the irony, y'all, the irony is, do you not see that they went and promoted health to their own women? Ooh, wake up. Wake up. They went and presented this for their own women and then turn around and put you on a magazine and on the internet without health. Do you see what I'm saying? Read this again. They're saying white women should start building up their strength because we need more white babies. So they encourage women to lift weights and gain strength. Why? Because they know that in order to keep a species alive, you need to be healthy. You guys. Yet they will tell you, oh, girl, you go, girl, you be big, girl. You be good, girl. Like, oh. Do you see the secret now? Do you see the secret now? So the irony of this article being like, it's white supremacist, because the messaging is you need to be careful about why you choose to exercise because white people were the ones who originated exercise. Yeah, because let's call it true. Because they knew that that's how you keep your species alive. So they will turn around and tell you that you need to be heavier, and it's okay for you because you're so poor, you don't need to exercise, and yes, it's the white man's fault, so you can't eat healthy food. But no, they will make sure that their women know that you need to exercise and eat well. Understand the irony. What issue is this of Time Magazine? Let me see. I don't know. It's online. I don't know. If you Google white supremacy and exercise, Time Magazine, it'll show up. So it's amazing that if that is actually true, like understand understand that people know what it takes to keep a species alive, to keep a species growing. They understand this, but will turn around and tell you, oh, no, 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 no. Y'all are just big. I can't. I can't, you guys. I can't. Lord of mercy. Lord of mercy. This is like cracking me up, you guys. Okay. Your book talks about at one point, America's focus was on exercise so that we could have a population that was ready to go to war. Ooh, I want to say something that is probably not politically correct, but I'm going to be quiet. This is the Holy Spirit. What is health and fitness culture training us to do, and how has that expectation evolved over time? So she goes on, one of the ways this was marketed is that it puts muscle on your bones. It's really picked up during the Cold War. Right after the World War II, you start to have more concerns about Americans getting soft. This idea that the things that make Americans great, like cars and TV sets, were actually taking a toll on Americans' bodies, make exercise look wholesome and patriotic, and shift exercise to being a good citizen and defending your country. I believe it. So you guys, I have someone on my Instagram. It's like, say it, say it, say it. I will say it because you know what? It is what it is. But I'm going to say it in a kind way. In the 1980s, there was a huge boom in the fitness industry connected to work hard, play hard mentality. I was also really moved speaking to gay men who had lived through HIV/AIDS and talk about how they exercised to display that they had a healthy body in a moment when there was so much homophobia. So let me move back to the America's focus was exercising so that we could have a population that was ready to go to war. So a lot of people, and I'm Black, so I'm gonna talk about Black people. There's a lot of talk about, okay, revolutionizing and fighting back against white supremacy. How y'all gonna do that when you can't even get healthy? America's focus was on exercising so that we could have a population that was ready to go to war. Yes. And so the fact we cannot go to war, even emotionally, even mentally, if you are not healthy. Do you see the setup? 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 Like, yes. That's exactly why you should be able to be healthy. Not even so that you can physically go to war, but that you can emotionally go to war. You can emotionally be able to withstand some of the garbage that is being promoted to you. Yes. But when you have a population that is convinced that part of your culture is being overweight and part of your culture is being obese because y'all just big boned, I can't. I can't. Good God Almighty. Okay. Let me see. So the rest of this article, it looks like, is talking about how being poor limits all of your options and all your options for basketball and options for being outdoors. And I think this article is exactly what I expected, right? It's this idea that if you are Black or if you are not white, you cannot be healthy. You cannot exercise. And I think this is where I can't do excuses. Like, I just can't. And you guys know. And I know that there are people who are legitimately in these circumstances where, exercising and eating well is challenging, but I don't think it's as much of the population as we would like to pretend. I think we are looking for excuses to not just have good old discipline, and that's bad. let's see. And there is some good, like there are some good parts that I really like about this article where she talks about the shake machines that used to, I actually, when I was living in Korea, you guys, they had these shake machines, and she talks about how women were expected to passively exercise versus exert themselves and lift weights and things like that. And I love that. I think that's an important point to make, that women, part of women's empowerment was a lot, was saying, hey, you can also move and train your body and get healthy by lifting weights instead of just sitting on a couch and being like this poor weak woman who can't do anything. I love that. I think that's important. I'm not going to say this article is all bad, but a lot of this article is focused around women. A lot of this article is focused around excuses for why people can't be healthy, and it kind of bothers me. Okay. It's important to point out that access was never totally equal. If you lived in a neighborhood that didn't have safe streets or streets that were not well lit, women were catcalled, people of color were thought to be committing a crime. Listen, she's talking about running. Okay, you guys already know what I'm going to say. If you live in the ghetto where you can't go exercise, listen, there, especially in the age of YouTube, there are exercise videos you can do at your home. Don't tell me you don't have internet, because Comcast gives out free internet below a certain income level. Don't tell me you don't have internet because you have a phone. Like, do you see what I'm saying? And like, these articles are bothersome. The title, I already knew I was going to be annoyed, because whenever you start labeling white supremacy with something that's good for you, then this is what we get, right? We start to have this conflation of, let me finish my thought. You start to have this issue where if it's white supremacist, therefore you shouldn't do it if you're black. Like, yes, like you can do exercises from your phone because y'all all got cell phones. Okay, so she's in this part, she's talking about running and how it depends on where you live and the body that you live in. It's like, yeah, no, everybody can't run, but everybody can exercise, let's see. Then she talks about this stuff I don't care. She talks about Pilates and the origins of Pilates, et cetera, et cetera. And she talks about Richard Simmons and how he welcomed everybody into the studio. And you guys, we've talked about this before on my channel, how there was a certain time in which the fitness industry was very exclusive, and it was like almost the irony of, you can't join us unless you're fit, but you need to go get fit on your own and then you can join us. And I think there is something to be said about being welcoming to people who are fit, who are trying to get healthy. So I do think that that's important. I would love for the future of fitness to not only be about Wi-Fi connected treadmills and luxury clubs, but rather a collective public investment for making fitness and recreation available to everybody. Listen, fitness and recreation is available to everybody. Let's stop pretending that it's not. It is. But here we go with well, if white people would just open up more gyms and open up more recreations, and then everybody, it's like, no, fitness and recreation is available for everybody. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We know that exercise is good for you, but our policy environment has not caught up with that. We should acknowledge that's one of the things we can agree on. And better physical education, better recreation spaces for kids and adults. I agree with this part. Better physical education, I don't care about the better recreation spaces, because everybody has that. Now, you guys know I was a physical education teacher. And did you know that the state of California makes I think the passing mile time is 10 minutes? It's 10 minutes. We do need better physical education. We need to stop lowering our standards for education, for physical education. Do you know that kids we would have PE 3 times a week for like a 90 minutes maybe. And people are like, yeah, but that's a lot of hours. But what we actually know about exercise is that daily stimulation is important. So we as PE teachers talked about all the time how it would be better for them to have PE 55 minutes a day than it would for them to have PE 3 times a week or 2 times a week. Because daily movement every single day will trump especially because the kids are sitting so long and they're not getting that exercise on the other days. It would actually benefit them more. And let me just do the math real quick because y'all know I was an English teacher and a gym teacher. I don't do math. But let's go 55 times 5 is 275. And let's say we had a week of 90 minutes times 2, or 90 minutes times 3 is 270 if they had PE 3 times a week. So every other week, they would only be getting 180 minutes. But if they did exercise 55 minutes every single day, then they would be fine. But a lot of our kids are obese because we've switched to this model of PE, physical education, where, in addition to parents not feeding their kids well, where they don't actually have to exercise every day and the standards are lower. So I actually agree with this. And you guys, one of the things that bothered me as a PE teacher is that we would have to, we'd have to accommodate this, these kids who just couldn't, we weren't allowed to encourage them in a positive way to get healthy. It was like, you're fat shaming me, you're exercise shaming me. I had a student call me and she was like, my daughter's in a class with all these athletes and you're really harsh. And I was like, I'm actually not. And like, this was my later years. So you guys know I had softened up by the time I was like year 10. I was really, but they didn't like that I was healthy because people who are unhealthy are always going to be triggered by your health. Because they just perceive you as someone that you're not. That's another conversation for another day. But anyway, I loved going over this article with you guys. Okay, let me read these comments from Instagram. School lunch is garbage too. It totally is. It's horrible. It's horrible. And if we actually cared about kids' health like we say we do, we would actually spend money on healthy foods. All right, you guys. I am going to go off. I'm sorry for clapping so loudly. I'm going to go ahead and go make myself some dinner. I've been having salmon every day. It's kind of nasty. So I think I'm going to have breakfast for dinner. I'm going to have pumpkin spice paleo waffles and some turkey sausage. And I'm going to try and fix my Cricut Joy because I want to finish making my gifts for my athletes and I can't do that. So anyway, you guys, thanks so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe on this video. If you're not subscribed to my Instagram, follow me at Joanna Joy with an I _. Yes, I love waffles. And you guys, make sure you subscribe to me on YouTube as well. I love y'all and I'll see you tomorrow for another conversation. Bye.